Hi, it's Dave from Crafty Me Creations. I'm here to do a tutorial on making spikes for an over-the-top hair bow, and I've got a little inspiration bow here to show you kind of what we're doing. And so these are the spikes. The spikes go at the bottom of the bow, in between the base bow and your surround bow and that sort of thing. So we are making spikes, which are right here. And they just look spiky, and that's probably how they got their name. Anywho, alright, so to make spikes, we are going to use 7/8 or 1-inch grosgrain, whatever you happen to have. And so I've got some 7/8 inch grosgrain ribbon cut, and you're going to need something to measure with. So I've got a tape measure that I use, and you're going to need scissors and something to heat seal with, and then you're going to need needle and thread. And I recommend a strong thread, and something obviously that you're going to be able to sew with, so it's going to fit in your needle. And I'm using a heavy duty needle because in another tutorial today I broke my needle because I often have to use some pliers to pull my needles in and out with because of my nerve damage. So anyway, so make sure that you have strong needle and strong thread because you're going to sew through a lot of layers. So, alright, so to get started, let's see, let me move this down a little bit so you can see my table. Oh, and you're going to need your glue gun as well. Okay, so down a little further. Okay, hope everybody can see that. I think we're good. Okay. Alright, so what you're going to use are coordinating ribbons, and I'll show you. This is my main print ribbon that I'm using. It's Peppermint Princess, and so everything is going to coordinate with this. And so what you want to do first is, gather your ribbons together. You can use, several different prints, 1 or 2 prints, even just 1 print if you want just solids. It's a matter of choice, a matter of preference. It's, totally your design preference. Don't be afraid to audition different prints, or colors to see what might work best for you. And anyway, so what you need is 11 6-inch, well, I usually do 6-inch cuts. You're going to lose some of your you're going to lose some of your inches. There you go, some of your measurement in the when you cinch it and stuff. So and then there's cutting and that sort of thing. So probably somewhere 5.5 6 inches is probably what you're going to end up needing. So anyhow, so you get all of your cuts, and typically you're going to need 11. Some people will use 9, and it's really a preference on how full you want your spikes to be. This one in particular, I've used 9 on. Oops. And so you can see there's kind of a kind of a gap in between here, and so it just it depends on how you want your ones to look overall. But this has been 9 spikes, and I'm going to do this one with 11. So, or maybe this is 11. Yeah, no, I think it's 9. Okay, so this one's going to be 11. So it's going to be a little bit different. So we'll do that and get to it. So the first thing you want to do again is is cut all your ribbons. Play with them ahead of time. Figure out which which prints that you want, that sort of thing. You're going to do whichever print that you want in the middle, to come out in the middle of your bow right here, which I typically coordinate that with either what's in my surround bow or what's in my twisted boutique bow. And it's usually somewhere in the main print, or something that just really kind of reiterates that, because this to me is the focal area. So so you want something that is going to look well with that. So for this particular one that I'm making, I'm going to use the main print in the middle. So with the main print, or whichever one you're using in the middle, you actually want to have 3 of those available, because you're also going to use one in your middle, in your very middle spike. So we'll talk about that in a minute, but just to let you know what we're doing. Okay, so to make spikes, again, you're going to cut, whatever measurements you want to use. I prefer to use the 6-inch. So you're going to cut 11 6-inch strips, and some people will go ahead and do their V-cuts before they put their bow together. I just see my boobs are hanging out. Sorry about that. And then some people choose to cut it afterward. I like to cut mine beforehand, and that's just, it's just a matter of preference. I just prefer to do it that way. So I'll just show you how to do a V-cut. You take your strips and you fold them over to where they match, like this. And then, now some people will cut from the inside out, and some people cut from the outside in, and I'm an outside in cutter. So all you have to do is you want to line your scissors up at the corner and do a slight angled cut down in. Now you want to be careful not to do too little or too much, because I'll show you what happens. If you do too little, I'll make this one too little, then what you're going to end up with is something that doesn't really look like a V, okay? So even if I were to do a little bit more but not enough, you can see it still isn't quite a very deep V. So now I'll show you if you do too much, what's going to happen. So let's say that I get really kind of out there. That's really not the look you're going for either. That's great for an award ribbon, but not what you want in your spikes. So to get a proper V-cut, you just want to cut a little bit. And it's something you can play with. If you're really not sure, cut a little bit. And then, like I did before, cut a little and a little and a little, because you can always cut a little bit more, but you can't put anything back on. So until you're really kind of used to how far you need to cut, maybe do a couple trial and errors and cut a little at a time. And, okay, so for mine, let me see if you can see this. Okay, so for mine, I'm going to line my scissors up right here on the corner, and I'm going to do a V-cut in. And I just do, this is maybe like 1/4 of an inch or so. It's not very much. And there you go. So you have a very nice little V-cut, if everybody can see that. Okay, and then you're going to heat seal all your cuts. Make sure they're sealed nicely. Because when you're tugging on them or whatever, you obviously you don't want the ribbon to start, unraveling. So you make sure they're all cut and sealed, and if not, if you choose to cut afterward, just make sure that you have heat sealed the ends, even if you haven't cut them yet. Just the straight ends, because you are going to be tugging on these. So even if you leave them straight, you want to make sure they're heat sealed, so that if you tug on them, you're not going to end up fraying your ribbon. So, all right. So that being said, let's just go ahead and start this. Now what you want to do is, I've got all of my ribbons cut out here, and I like to audition my ribbon first and make sure that I have them all laid out where I want them. So also I like to pay very close attention to direction of ribbon. I'm putting my spikes together as though I'm looking at my bow facing me. So here's my bow, right? And it's facing me. So if you were putting it together, your bow is facing you. You want all your ribbon directions to be coming the direction of someone looking at the bow this way. So since this is facing me, I'm putting it together so that my little princess ribbon is going to be facing me. So if it was facing you, you would want it to be up and down so you could read it, not like this so you can't read it. Okay? So just, just a word about direction. I'm just kind of anal that way. Some people may not care. I do. So anyway, and believe me, I put a few bows together that I've been going, wait a minute, what? So yeah, so just be careful of that. Be conscious of it. Another thing that I tend to be conscious of whenever I'm making a bow with particularly words on it, some design or whatever, some design style, like you can even see in this one. I wanted to sort of showcase this little UK guy, the little wildcat guy. And so I was very careful to fussy cut my ribbon so that this is where these little guys showed up on my spikes where I wanted them to. And then I was very careful about the directions they were showing and that sort of thing. So, and I don't care to, sometimes you might have to waste a couple inches of ribbon, but that's to where, that's where I consider it's a little more artistic and, looks better on your bow. And the better your bows look, obviously the more people are going to want them. So, artistically speaking, it's worth kind of fussy cutting and maybe wasting a couple inches of ribbon so that you can get that, that look that you want. So that being said, with these ones, I have carefully cut them so that the Peppermint Princess part is going to come down on the spikes. And I'm going to have one going each direction so that it can be, sort of red one way and the other. So that's just kind of my, again, my little artistic idea. Or you could have them both going this way or both going this way. They're both, pretty much the same, the way that I cut them. This one, not so much. This one's probably going to be hidden quite a bit by the embellishments, but if not, what I tend to do is on my, I'll show you over here. On my left side, is where I tend to put my lace and things. So the left side tends to be a little more embellished than the right side often with my bows. If I'm not embellishing the same on, kind of on each side. So what I tend to do then is if part of my ribbon in the middle is going to be showing, then I tend to make it a little more artistically pleasing on the right side because I know I'm not going to embellish that as heavily as I will on the left, and that's my preference of how I make my OTTs. And, everyone has a different way, and that's fine. But, just something that I'm always aware of when I'm making my spikes. So, if I have a printed ribbon that, has some sort of, thing on it that I would like to just sort of showcase. So, okay. All right. So, now I like to audition my spikes first. I'm trying to figure out where I'm at. There we go. So that you all can see what I'm doing. Okay, all right, so the first thing I want to do is lay down that middle one, and then I've got the additional prints that I have are the coordinating prints that go with this princess, or Peppermint Princess line, which are the little stripes and the little peppermints. And then I also have this solid white grosgrain with this little tiny silver strand on the outside of it, which I really thought was cute and thought went well. And one of the reasons that I chose white was because this has a lot of red in it, so I felt like it needed to be broken up a little bit. So I went with a white as opposed to a red because I have this red solid glitter that I love. We made a TVB with it. So I thought I might use that because it's got the little sparkle in it. But then I was like, that's a whole heck of a lot of red, and maybe we need some white. So I dug this out of my stash, and I really kind of like the way it looks. So, all right, the next thing I'm going to do is audition how I want my spikes to look overall. So when you're laying out your spikes, you've got your middle one, and then each spike, let me put these down, otherwise I'm just going to keep messing this up. Okay, so each spike is going to sort of overlap the other one in a crisscross fashion. So I'm going to put the red and white stripes there. Okay, and I kind of like that. And the reason that I chose the stripes is because this peppermint is right here. So I didn't want the peppermint right next to it. But I want to make a transition with the heavier red because I know I'm going to have to have something white and light on the next one. So I'm going to put the peppermint one here. Then I'm going to put the white ones on there. And let's see here. So I'm kind of doing a light, dark sort of situation. And I find that that's the most aesthetically pleasing as far as I like. And so that's kind of how I do it. And all right, then I'm just going to come back again with the red and white stripe. And again, coordinating back and forth, back and forth. Then I need the peppermint again. And, you know, again, we're kind of doing light, dark, light, dark, light, dark. And there's my peppermint. And then the final one is going to be the Peppermint Princess words. And actually, I think I want to, let's see here. There we go. I want to lay one this way with the princess coming this way, and then the next one will be the Peppermint Princess words coming the other direction. Okay, so I'm really kind of happy with the way that looked. If I didn't like it, I could always move it around before, you know, before I've got anything set in stone. You know, so I like it, and I think that everything is coordinating well, and I'm liking the way everything is laying, and I don't see any problems with it, so I'm going to leave it as it is. Now, there's a couple different things that I can do. I can either pick it up like this and go ahead and do a fold, which I'll show you how to do, or I can sew it. So let me show you how to do the fold, since I can go ahead and pick that up and do it, and it won't require anything further from me. So you want to just very carefully put your finger on it and scoop up your ribbons. I'm not sure if you saw me do that very well or not, but I just kind of put pressure down there, and then I want to scoop it up and make sure that I get that middle ribbon right there, and then I'm just going to grab and hold, and everything is still holding together. Okay, so if I did it that way, then you're going to fold it just like you would your TBB. Fold it in half, and then fold it back on itself again. So you can get that cinch in the middle, just like with your twisted boutique bow, like this. Okay, and then you would wrap it, and then your spikes are going to be good to go. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to sew it, because in the end it's all going to look the same, so whether or not you choose to wrap it like that or sew it, it's, you know, we're all getting to the same place, I guess, in the end. So with this particular way of doing it, if you sew it, what you want to do is put your spikes together, and you would take your bottom one, which is that middle peppermint one, can't get hold of it. Okay, and what I like to do is crease it and make myself a nice crease that I can see. Alright, put it back down there. Then I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to take the very top one, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to fold it, crease it, make myself a nice crease there that I can see. Okay, so then I want to make sure that everything is where it's supposed to be, that everything is lined up, that all of my ribbons are even and coordinated and all that, and these little white ones are not lining up for some reason. So just going to get those straightened out. Okay, so make sure that they're all lined up, and because I had them already, gotta move my legs are falling asleep. Okay, because I already had them lined up in the order that I wanted them, this makes this, you know, very easy to do. But ultimately, what you want to do is make sure that all of your pieces are lined up where you want them on your spike ring. Okay, so now that I've got all these lined up, what I'm going to do is take my threaded needle, which is doubled and knotted, okay, and I'm going to come in, oops, I'm a little bit off kilter here with these. Make sure they're even. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my shucks. All right, here's my crease. I'm going to put my needle right smack dab in the middle of my ribbon there. Okay? I'm going to turn it over, and what I want to do is have that needle come right up through the middle of that other crease. So we're doing good here. Alright, it's a lot of layers to come through, so I'm going to have to use my pliers to actually pull this through. Ugh, there we go. Well, that was actually a fail because initially I did not want to pull that all the way through, so hold on. Let's try that again. Alright. Let me knot my bow again, or knot my thread. Okay. Alright, we're going to try that again, and this time I'm going to actually leave the spikes on my needle for just a bit. Make sure that I'm getting myself in the right spot. Boy, I'm failing. Okay, here we go. Right up through the center. Once again. Okay, now I'm going to leave that on there for a little bit. And what I want to do then is I want to lay my spikes out, make sure that they're where I want them, and that everything is coordinating and going where they're supposed to. So it's a matter of pulling one direction and one the other. So where that one is going to stay here, I want to pull the other one down. Leave one on the top and pull the other one down. I don't know if y'all can see what I'm doing here or not. So see, I've got my spikes here, and I'm going to leave one here and then pull one down to the other side. So do you see where I'm going? My spikes are going to look like this. Okay? And right now, I'm just putting them all where they need to be. Just making sure that everything is lined up and coordinated where it needs to go before I make any permanent movement on this. Okay, it looks like everything is where it needs to be. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pull my needle through. Alright, oops, got it caught on that. Okay, now before I do anything else with this, what I'm going to do is make absolute certain that all of my spikes are where I want them to be. Okay, and so making sure we're coordinated and that all my spikes are laid out where I want them, because what I'm going to do then is sew excuse me, sew through the middle of my ribbons, and that will help hold my spikes where I want them. But I want to make absolute certain, because once I sew through that middle, there's no moving these spikes. They are going to be where they are, and that is all there is to it. So you know, I want to make sure that everything is absolutely where I want it before I do that. Make sure they're all sitting where I want them to be. And this is kind of a fussy process, but you know, once you have a nice set of spikes, it just sets off your bow. It just makes it lovely. So, you know, it's definitely a fussy process, but one that's well worth it in the end to get a nice looking OTT bow. And one, you know, that your customer will love, and that will keep them coming back for more. So, all right. Okay, so as you can see, I'm just kind of looking over my bows, or over my spikes, and making sure that, you know, that everything is kind of where I want it to look. And this is, you know, pretty much what I want to have when I have my finished product. So what I'm going to do is put my finger in here, move that out of the way. I'm going to lift it up very carefully, making sure that it's still all together. Then I'm going to take my needle and go back down through the spikes again. And looks like I have a phone call. Okay, hold on one second. Oops, if I can find the pause.